He ain't budging.
Yeah, that's a kid's show, by the way. Now, if I asked you, is SpongeBob too much of a creepy show for kids? I know, it's a stupid question on paper. This is the brightest, goofiest, most memeable cartoon on television. And yet, if you grew up with it, you already know exactly why it's not a stupid question. Because, ironically, those creepy episodes are some of the most memorable, maybe even traumatic, moments in your life. Here's the problem though, there are 16 seasons of this show, and every single one of them has something worth being considered as the creepiest of all. So I'm not picking just one, I'm picking the creepiest episode of every season. And no, before you say it, I'm not just listing SB-129 16 times, because the deeper I went, the more I realized creepy could mean so many things in this show, and figuring out what it does mean is where this gets so complicated. But before I can start, there are a few things I have to make clear, specifically what counts as creepy in a show where magic and ghosts exist, and where people get nuked and ripped in half on a daily basis, because creepy might mean something different to certain people. Sometimes it's dread, yes, we're talking about that something is wrong feeling for the whole episode. Sometimes it's a single image or even frame that just feels off. And sometimes it's not scary at all. It's just gross on so many levels. It makes you shiver every time you watch it. So I'm not technically picking the scariest episode of each season. I'm picking the one that creeps me out the most, whichever way it gets there. And yes, that means some seasons are gonna be a stretch, since some of these episodes aren't really trying to creep you out at all in the first place. And sometimes the creepiest thing I can find is one weird moment that just stuck with me. And even when we get there, I'll be honest about it. That's kind of the fun part, really. One more thing to add though, we're not bringing good or bad episodes into this context. That's another topic for another day, and you'll see me holding that line as best as I could. That being said, let's find our creepy. And we're starting somewhere you might not expect. Now, a lot of you are going to be expecting something like SB-129 or Scaredy Pants, or even I Was a Teenage Gary. And for a good reason, honestly. Aside from SB-129, the last two are the official Halloween episode special for season 1, so it's expected to give you an uneasy experience. And who could forget Squidward's journey into the void of nothingness alone, which he barely survived with a bit of luck. However, I'm not gonna pick all of those, partly because it's the obvious choice, and partly because there's an episode in season 1 that stuck in my head longer when I was a kid. It's the Rock Bottom episode, a story of Spongebob and Patrick where they get on the wrong bus, then get stranded at rock bottom, and that's the whole horror of it. He's not in danger from monsters or supernatural causes. The boy's just stuck somewhere he doesn't understand, in the dark, where the rules are different and nobody's coming to get him. It's one of the most relatable nightmares in the show, both for adults and a child, especially a child. The thought of what if you were lost at unfamiliar places and things kept not working out, and then you have to wander everywhere while trying to get a sense of where you are. For a season 1 episode, it's shockingly good at making being lost feel like dread instead of an adventure. It's a high bar to open on, and season 2 is about to raise it, because it has so much creepy to choose from. Picking just one was almost unfair. There's Graveyard Shift, and there's Were-Doodle, and trust me, both of those come back later in ways you're not expecting. That's a promise. There's also the Procrastination episode. I mean, hell, the creepy feeling of running away from my responsibilities still haunts me to these days. That being said, the one I think is the most memorable is Wormy. One day, Sandy leaves Spongebob and Patrick to pet sit her dome, and overnight, the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, which eventually escalated to terrorizing the whole of Bikini Bottom in a day. Now, despite the whole episode turns out to be very chaotic in a comedic sense, you understand very well the only reason I picked this episode is because of this. A real-life close-up shot of a bug. You see, The thing is, I didn't know that a butterfly could be looked at like this back then. All I know is that their wings are pretty. They fly with grace, unlike a mosquito or a dragonfly. And so, if that shot is enough to scare kids who know what a butterfly is, the fear has to be multiplied tenfolds when you're a fish under the sea that doesn't even know what a butterfly even is. So yeah, their panic seems way more reasonable now. It might not be scary to you now, but it found a real nerve back then, and I'm convinced they do it on purpose, unlike my pick for the next season. Just like season 2, season 3 has a few strong contenders. I guess this was around the time the team behind Spongebob realized they found a real joy making kids cry and traumatized from watching cartoons on TV. Nasty Patty is a good one. Midlife Crustacean is also creepy in some way, especially if you're an old lady. One Crab's trash? It could be seen as creepy. I mean, Krabs goes out of his way to dig the grave of Smitty Weber Jagenmajensen and ends up fighting the whole cemetery residents. Is Clams creepy? I don't think so. However, season 3 has a dark horse, which I deliberately picked today because I feel this is the one that's creepy in the head as an adult. Doing Time. Again, it started funny when Mrs. Puff had to go to jail for SpongeBob's lunatic driving. Then it quickly becomes not, because she soon realizes that she doesn't want out. Jail means no SpongeBob, and she's happy about it. And then SpongeBob and Patrick keep trying to break her out, and the episode slowly turns into her losing her freaking mind. We could see all her paranoia, the hallucination, the sense that she's coming apart in there, and the fact that the show isn't telling you whether she's okay by the end. You could say that this is the first time we came to a realization that all this time, Mrs. Puff was not okay when it comes to dealing with SpongeBob. We like to think that, oh yeah, it's just a mother having to deal with her problematic kid day in and day out. Like, maybe she loves to complain every time, but at the end of the day, she still treats him like her own kid. This episode proves that her feelings are nowhere close to that. And so that realization could be considered creepy, I think. Season 4, though, drops the psychology and goes straight for your stomach. Season 4 is where I started to have to deal with the gross episodes, because unfortunately, Season 4 has no shortage when it comes to disturbing images. You've got Squid Bob Tentacle Pants, there's also The Thing. I heard some people didn't find Smelly to be quite as funny as others. Can you consider Once Bitten as creepy as well? Well, not really, unless you had a dying fear of a disease like rabies. The only good pick I could think of is Bummer Vacation. I mean, it gets kinda creepy halfway through the end when SpongeBob gets somewhat psychopathic when he's convinced Mr. Krabs wants to replace him with Patrick. But at the end of the day, my pick goes to The Gift of Gum. Yeah, the episode about Patrick giving SpongeBob a used wad of gum for Best Friends Day. I mean, chewed gum is one thing, but he gives this massive blob of chewed gum that Patrick's rolled around town like a Katamari. So it's got stuff in it, like hair, garbage, and if you look closely, a person trapped in it. What kind of person thought this kind of gross thing would be fitting as a gift for your closest loved ones? Well, Patrick apparently. And the fact that the gum wins, basically the whole town ends up coated in it, which would prove to be more chores for anyone in Bikini Bottom. It's not creepy in the sense that used gum is so disgusting. It's more of, the thought of your friend actually wanting to give it to you with a smile on his face. Yeah, it could be that he doesn't know any better, sure, but what if he knows and intentionally gave it to you because he knows you will be too soft to reject it anyway? So yeah, I think this one is the most creepy episode for season 4. So that's my pick for season 4. But if you think gum is bad, season 5 found a way to make me miss it, because what's coming next is worse than a gross feeling. Season 5 is mostly lore expansion episodes and specials, and more gross episodes, unfortunately. The obvious gross choice would be to love a patty, or maybe even goo-goo gas. Why? I mean, because look at those babies. Tell me that doesn't haunt your sleep. But yeah, that's just disgusting rather than creepy. The same could be said about the Battle of Bikini Bottom. So, as much as I wanted to pick a new episode for Season 5, the award goes to the same episode that I also picked as the most abnormal ones in my last video, Spongehenge. This one speaks for itself, I think. Lots of eerie sounds, the story of Spongebob got cast away for who knows how long, and not to mention, it ended with the whole town basically in shambles and a field trip of an alien jellyfish that decided all this Spongehenge is some kind of old civilization art. Then again, even if you don't consider it creepy, I don't think we have a better choice. Or did I miss something? Let me know, because Season 6 leaves no room for doubt. This is where the show got good at making you sick. Season 6 is arguably the pinnacle of the gross-out era of SpongeBob, as if to perfect the 2 seasons before it. I don't have to mention them since it was so obvious, right? And so that only left us, or me, to one episode, Gone. The story about SpongeBob gets left alone in the city, because everyone got busy celebrating the No SpongeBob Day, or week, basically. And if it was not obvious enough why I picked this one, it's not only that it's a haunting journey for SpongeBob trying to live a new life alone in a city, not to mention he never really tried to find out why or where everyone is missing. It's the length that SpongeBob is willing to go to replace anyone in his mind to make some kind of conversation. At first, he's only role-playing as them. But as we go on, he made a doll Patrick from ground meat, and then moved it like a puppet, only to spiral more and more to the point he thinks a boat is being jealous of it? That's a genuinely creepy experience. A guy slowly losing his mind because he's alone, which weirdly is the perfect setup for Season 7, because Season 7 is the most depressing season of all. Right, Season 7, the cursed one, and you already know what you're bracing for. The mean episodes, the torture ones. You're expecting me to dig around in that pile, which surprisingly turns out to be good choices here when you think about it. A pal for Gary or one-course meal is creepy and makes you feel uneasy to some extent. The same could be said about Squidward in Clarinet Land, which is, I think, one of the highlights of Season 7. But since I've already picked that for my most abnormal video, I wanted to pick a different one, and that's why I picked Earworm. Yeah, this one proved to be a good psychological horror as well as a creepy one. Musical Doodle is about the lyrics that are basically about listening to something until you lose your mind, and that's exactly what happens to SpongeBob. He buys the records, he plays it on a loop into the night, he can't stop, and he starts coming apart. Then they pull the actual earworm out of his head at the end, a squishy, real worm, to get physical body horror to close it off. What makes this the pick is that this is creepy in Season 7 standards. The season everyone remembers for being cruel. Out of a whole season people remember for being cruel, this was the one episode that felt disturbing on purpose. And so after all that cruelty, you'd think Season 8 would finally let me breathe. Or so I thought, because this was not an easy pick at all. Speaking of which, I think Ghoul Fools is a good shout just because the Halloween specials are back after so many years gone. I really liked this episode. Lord Poltergeist seems to be a more competent ghost than the Dutchman when it comes to actually torturing and scaring people. He's still not as strong power-wise, but yeah. Then again, this episode is more of a fun one rather than being creepy. Face Freeze is filled with disturbing expressions for the whole 11 minutes, but there's nothing more to it than that. Are you happy now? Nah, that's just depressing. The same could be said about Demolition Doofus. And so the awards for the creepiest episode in Season 8 goes to the Krabby Patty that ate Bikini Bottom. One day, Mr. Krabs gets hold of Sandy's growth serum, puts it in a patty for profit, of course, and then the patty doesn't stop growing. The thing is, not only is the ground meat growing at a fast rate, it looks like it's alive because it keeps eating anything it touches. It's like a kaiju, a 300-foot Krabby Patty that rolls through Bikini Bottom, eating everything, whether it's buildings, the cash register, plankton, SpongeBob's shoe right off his foot. SpongeBob has to absorb it eventually, using all that meat little by little to make Krabby Patties at the end, which couldn't have been comfortable, I imagine. This is a different flavor than anything around it. For one, it's a creepy spectacle. And keep this in the back of your head, this is not the last time a Krabby Patty turns into a monster on this show. That comes back. And it comes back worse. But before we get there, we have to survive Season 9 first. Now, Season 9 isn't trying to scare you at all. If anything, they're trying to make you squirm. Nothing in Season 9 is creepy in any normal sense, I think. The only few options I could come up with from this season is either it came from Goo Lagoon, Seance Schmeance, or Squid Baby. Now, both the first two are very good episodes. The first one is about the gang discovering strange, ancient purple substances that are hidden beneath Goo Lagoon. It proves to be a problem once Plankton gets his hands on it, and then they have to save the day. As for Seance Schmeance, that one's about SpongeBob performing a ghost summoning ritual to get an old sandwich recipe. But I'm afraid when it comes to making you feel uneasy and creeped out, neither of them comes anywhere close to Squid Baby. Yeah, I mean, it's just not a pretty episode to watch. Because if you think Goo Goo Gas is already a bad meal, then this one is a full course of rotten food. Not to mention, it's a Squidward torture episode, built on the idea of putting a grown adult in a bloated head and a mind of a baby. Let's just say it's not a fun time to rewatch. So no, it's not scary, but it's the one that left me squirming. And by the rules, that's a win. And that squirm is exactly where Season 10 picks up, except this time, it crawls. Season 10 is the short one. Barely a season, really. So the pool's small to begin with, only 11 episodes, but if anything, it only helped me out because it hands us a clear winner without any meaningful competition. It's the housewarming episode. We've already seen a worm sitting inside SpongeBob's head once, but what if you multiplied it? What if they overtook his whole body to throw a rave inside him and practically turned him into a walking body horror exhibit? Ugh, I still get shivers every single time. The only one that comes close is Whirly Brains, but no, let's just not talk about that. And remember when I told you the Krabby Patty turns into a monster more than once? Season 11 is where I make good on that promise. Here it is, and it's the nastier version, one called Krabby Patty Creature Feature. Remember the giant sandwich from Season 8? This one, on the other hand, is the body horror version of the same idea, and it does not play around. Sandy and Krabs cook up a new secret patty. Everyone eats it, and then one by one they start to transform. Mr. Krabs first, swelling and stretching into this grotesque Krabby Patty creature, and then it spreads. It's technically a zombie outbreak episode, except the zombies are mutated burger monsters, and the way they infect you is by feeding you parts of themselves until you become one too? What were the writers even on? Is it creepy? Yes. But is it the creepiest? Debatable. There's a sponge in my soup kinda makes me feel uneasy as well. Or should I say, it disgusts me. The story is that Krabs is being cheap again. What else is new? This time by using leftover food from the trash can as a base for the Krusty Krab's new soup. Yeah, that's a new low. And if that's not disgusting enough, for whatever reason, some hippies behind the Krusty Krab decide to live inside the soup because, well, it's warm. So everyone eats it anyway without knowing. And the episode turns into this weird story about trying to get the hippies out of the soup, which ends with them losing and becoming hippies themselves? Yeah, I don't know. Monster Krabby Patty wins, I guess. Do you think Night Shift is creepy? Because I didn't really feel it. I genuinely couldn't think of any better episode from Season 11, but maybe you guys have a better choice. Let me know. Season 12 though? Season 12 actually gave me options. Season 12 is so much better than the previous one. We've got real options here, though granted that's a low bar to clear. We've got a cabin in a kelp, which is a great camping episode for the girls. The plot's good, but they never really commit to it as a scary episode, since it's packed with too many funny moments. The hankering is also really creepy visually and story-wise. Like, they're just going to casually reveal that Mr. Krabs has had an acquired taste for chum this whole time. All these years, he's fiercely guarded his famous Krabby Patty recipe, and yet ironically, he also craves the very thing his rival is selling. And now that his usual chum spot is closed permanently, he has to get his daily fix somewhere, which of course means the chum bucket. He ends up chugging down a whole tank of chum by himself that night. Now that I think about it, Nasty Patty is tame by comparison to the hankering. So yeah, this one is a really strong contender. Other than that, Gary's Got Leg is also pretty weird and creepy, I think. It's a spiritual successor to I Was a Teenage Gary, but instead of making everyone a snail, SpongeBob gives his leg to Gary, and as a result, slowly devolves into, whatever that is. So yeah, either one of those two, but I personally chose Gary's Got Leg. And with that, we move on to the last quarter of the show, where the definition of creepy starts to become fun again. And if there's anything fun that comes with it, it's that they're willing to explore some of their wildest ideas for the show. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing, but it's a commendable effort. And yet the first thing the modern era does with that freedom, it starts digging up its own graves. A callback to the good old hash-slinging slasher episode, Squid Ferratu. On a strange day, Squidward accidentally gets Nosferatu's mail. Yes, that Nosferatu, the vampire from the silent film, the one who showed up flicking the lights at the end of Graveyard Shift 20 years ago, he has to go return the mail to the castle, and SpongeBob tags along. And the whole thing turns into a genuine little gothic horror episode. That said, to my knowledge, the reception for this one isn't exactly glowing. Some people call it nothing but nostalgia bait, and as much as I agree with them, that's not really a relevant point for this video. Its sister episode, Slappy Days, is also treading a similar path, except this time the focus is on Nosferatu's butler, Slappy, doing his own weird and disgusting routine. But yeah, it's not as good as Squid Ferratu. However, the third option, and my choice for the creepiest episode in season 13, goes to Wallhalla. Do you remember that one time they revealed that some crazy-ass old man has been living inside SpongeBob's wall all this time? Well, turns out he's actually the handyman who got trapped inside when the house was built years ago. But still, slowly finding out that some strange guy has been living with you without you ever knowing for all these years? Tell me that isn't the opening scene of a horror movie. So Wallhalla takes season 13. And season 14 keeps the momentum because the modern era is about to commit to horror harder than it ever has. Season 14 is pretty much just a continuation from season 13. Both of them aim to be as crazy as possible with the story, as well as some of its character development. You know that was a pretty way to describe the modern seasons, right? And similar to season 10, this one is quite short with only 13 episodes, which coincidentally also makes the creepy picks easy to spot. They've got an episode that is a straight up horror homage with a dumb food pun stapled to the front, Necro-nom-nom-nomicon. The story is that SpongeBob's on a task to pick up a breakfast cookbook for the Krusty Krab, but because the shopkeeper is, baloney, SpongeBob ends up with the Necronomicon instead. You know, the cursed demon-summoning book from horror movies, except he thinks it's a cookbook, so he starts making breakfast out of it. Yeah, you could guess what happened for the rest of the episode, right?
Of course.
And if that wasn't creepy enough for you, then there's only one other name that could possibly deserve the title. The season's Halloween special, Creepaway Camp. It's a pretty good episode, and I really suggest you watch it if you haven't yourself. I actually want to make a whole separate video about it in the future, so I'll leave it at that for now. All I say is that even though it's built around the Camp Coral reunion, they pulled it off splendidly, giving us a proper, creepy Halloween episode. Something we've all been waiting a long time for, which makes what happens in Season 15 even more frustrating. Oh, Season 15 is one that keeps on giving. I wish I could say that. Season 15 proved to be the most difficult out of all, simply because, for the first time, the show ran low on the kind of creepy I'd been chasing all video. The only episode I could think could get close is one I've already praised in my abnormal video too, Unidentified Flailing Octopus. And I don't love repeating myself, but unfortunately, and I might be wrong on this, I couldn't find a single other creepy episode in Season 15, outside of the Squidward UFO episode. The rest are just chaotic, or straight up weird. So if I didn't want to reuse the UFO one, I'm afraid I would have to cheat a little here by combining Season 15 with the still airing Season 16, which, for better or worse, also happens to have one uncontested answer. Consider it the finale this list earned. Remember way back in Season 2 that Frankendoodle promise? The one I doubled down on? This is the other half of it. 14 seasons later, we're back with Curse of the Were-Doodle. So one night, SpongeBob's studying late for his driving test again, but he falls asleep over his drawings. Doodlebob comes to life, bites him, and the moment the full moon catches his pencil, a curse takes hold.
A Were-Doodle they shall become, all right?
And thus, SpongeBob transforms into the Were-Doodle. A werewolf in practice, but instead of fur and claws, it's a crude, scribbly doodle creature that brings drawings to life and rampages through Bikini Bottom. I do have one honorable mention though. It's the Go Fetch episode. This one's a proper Halloween episode. It's also a CGI special, which is why the episode only lasts for 6 minutes. And if anything, Go Fetch serves as a highlight for its crazy good high-action animation rather than a creepy horror story. Combine that with great music and you got a short movie that deserved to be called Halloween Specials.
That looks like Squidward!
Unlike its sister episodes, which is underwhelming, to say the least. And that 16 seasons, 16 creepy little episodes is the whole journey. But finishing, it left me with a problem I didn't expect. So after a week of rewatching more than half of SpongeBob, I'm not gonna lie, this topic messed with my head a little. Now I'm really confused as to what creepy even means anymore. But anyway, when I started, I thought creepy was going to be one thing, and I'd just be ranking how much of it each season had. It wasn't like that at all. Creepy in this show was a feeling I kept arriving at down completely different roads. So I'll throw it to you the same way I always do. What's the episode that creeped you out the most? Because I guarantee I missed somebody's. And hey, if this whole bright kids show dark thing underneath pattern is your kind of rabbit hole, I did a whole video on exactly that idea from a completely different angle. I went looking for how old everyone in SpongeBob actually is, and what I kept finding was that every single time you pin a character's age down with real evidence, something worse crawls out behind it. I'll see you on the next dive.